So I'm here with Elizabeth and Barton Cockey on the release of their brand new book. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why did you decide on Baltimore as the location for the novel?
Well, Baltimore is well known to us. We lived there for many years. I grew up in Baltimore. And there's a lot happening in Baltimore today that's very much in the national news. A lot of social unrest, and most recently the taking down of some important public art.
The other reason is that we know the city well. So when you're writing a novel and you're creating a scene, where is it? What do the streets look like? We didn't have to go to Google Maps and figure it out.
Didn't have to make it up.
Yeah, we didn't have to
Get
make
it
it up.
wrong.
We knew exactly what we were talking about, and that was influential on how the story was developed.
So how did you choose The Sacred Fury as the title for the novel?
Well, the novel includes as one of the dramatis personae Edgar Allan Poe, both as a literary personage and also as a vengeful ghost who shows up later in the story. And Poe wrote a long essay called Eureka. In fact, it was his last major essay. And in the beginning of that essay, he quotes Johann Kepler saying that I have discovered the golden secret of the Egyptians. I shall indulge my sacred fury. He translated that from the German, and you can find different versions of it if you look it up. This is a very powerful expression, partly because it evokes the history of the Greek mythology and the Furies, who were the goddesses of vengeance. And you don't want to call up the Furies because they are not a happy experience.
Tell me what calls up the Furies. Do the Furies get called up in the novel?
The Furies definitely are called for consultation, at least, in the novel, because things get heated up in the novel, so that comes into being.
I think we could say vengeful spirits, not the
Furies
specific,
themselves.
Erinyes of
Right.
Greek mythology.
Right.
And what is it that calls them up?
What calls up the Furies is lies, slanders,
Deceits.
desecration, sacrilege. That's what calls up the Furies. And there's quite a bit of that going on in the story.
Novel, yeah. There's quite a bit of that in the storyline, all kinds of confrontations between the police.
And the digging up of the grave.
And the digging up of the grave
of Edgar Allan Poe.
Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah.
In what sense is this prophetic, would you say?
Well, it's prophetic or relevant or connected to what's going on today, because right now in Baltimore there's quite a bit of lying and deceit and desecration. There are important monuments that are public art that were bought and paid for by private citizens and very dear to a substantial portion of the community that were taken down overnight by what I call official vandals. And those same people and their enablers are lying about the history behind those monuments. So we've got desecration, we've got deceit, we've got lies, and we've got slanders.
So what are you hoping the reader will come away with after reading the book?
That's a very good question. What do we want them to come away with? I think I want them to come away with a sense of urgency. I need to speak up. I need to do something. Or how can I be helpful to solve this dilemma or dilemmas? How do we resolve one group pitted against another group? What's fair? Freedom of speech. What can I say?
Yes.
What's appropriate to say, and what am I not saying that I wanted to, but I'm afraid to?
That's right. We want people to feel a sense of urgency about restoring and regaining the freedoms of the American Republic.
Now, the story centers around Baltimore, and we've discussed why you chose Baltimore. Where do you see Baltimore going? What's the future of Baltimore look like?
I think in a way it's an augury of what's going to happen to the country as a whole. There are parts of Baltimore that are rotting. They're taking buildings down just because they're inhabited by drug addicts and criminals. And at the same time, there are neighborhoods that are very nice neighborhoods in the northern part of the city where people are cowering inside their houses because they've got neighbors being shot by carjackers. they can't leave anything outside for fear of it being stolen. Packages are being taken off their front porches.
I think that Baltimore is a microcosm of the whole country.
Yeah, but at the same, yes, it is. That's what I was saying. And at the same time, while all that's going on, while all that hideous dysfunction is going on, there are multi-million-dollar high-rise condominiums going up around the Inner Harbor. So you've got this weird dichotomy between the abject poor and criminal classes who are just, and the criminals are just cycling in and out of the courts through a revolving door. And at the same time, you've got these very rich people buying properties down in the city. So
you have construction down in the Inner Harbor and displacement of a population that used to live there. To the county, I believe.
Right.
So what is your hope for the city?
Our hope for the city and for the country is that all of us can work together as a united family and not against one another, and that we can come together and find solutions to problems that affect all of us.
And that we can, and the only way we'll accomplish that is to speak honestly about those problems. And if we say something that somebody doesn't like, not to be shouted down as a racist or a xenophobe or whatever.
But that everyone has a right to his or her opinion, and that if we don't have conversations, I don't see a good end for any of us, and especially for Baltimore.
Right. The alternative to conversation is violent conflict.
Yeah. Where do you see current signs of hope for Baltimore?
As far
We don't
as
see a lot of hope in Baltimore. We moved from Baltimore because we were afraid. And we lived in a very nice part of town, but we were tired of having our cars broken into in the front of the house and our things stolen out of our carriage house in the back on a regular basis.
and being told by the police, don't go out at night, don't go out alone, lock your second floor windows. And by the way, we know that the crooks will be right back out on the street because most of them are underage. So it's like a fish that's too small to keep. They're just going to throw them back till they get bigger.
And then after the Freddie Gray incident, and the police became more disabled to deal with petty crime, even.
Now, there's something wrong when the authorities want to give the vandals room to destroy. And I don't think that mindset has changed in the city administration.
I think a hope for the city might be in its churches. There's a lot of good going on there in all communities, black, white, Asian.
Right.
And I think that organizations and communities that are able to come together, and maybe as this goes on, this turbulence goes on, that they will come together because they have to. That's what I think. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I think that it could go in that direction.
Yeah, I've heard the church called the hope of the world, and I think part of that is that there's sort of like an openness across those racial and ethnic and cultural lines that you see there.
Yeah, we very much dislike the whole discourse about blacks and whites, and the black group has this kind of mentalities, and the whites have this. We're all individuals. It's diverse because we're all different.
Well, the curious thing about the cultural Marxists and the diversicrats is that they actually assume that all black people are going to think the same way. That's actually the definition of racism. To assume that people of a particular race are going to have the same characteristics in every respect.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah.
So we're for diversity.
Yeah, right. Real diversity.
Real diversity.
Individualism. And sharing all kinds of different opinions.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your efforts to bring this up to our culture and our town. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having
It's a pleasure.
us.
Yeah.